Hello, my beautiful Crystar family. This is our July Q&A that we just had, and in this Q&A, we went over so many different topics. We talked about how to work with intrusions in the dream state, how are we correcting our future timelines, how to actually work with higher probability timelines. We also touched into what are the Chevron waves. So what are we dealing with the J Seal's energy right now? What does it mean to be able to have those cleared? How do we work with energy after a J Seal or an implant clearing? And more importantly, how are we going to work with this energy as we continue to evolve into what we've been calling Ascension? So through this understanding more about what is Ascension, how we are embracing more of this consciousness, we really dove into a lot of different topics within this Q&A. I hope you enjoy it. With so much love, here is our July Q&A. I'm just going to start with a few energies that are currently happening in our atmosphere right now. And I do want to share with you guys just right out the bat something that the Guardians have been gifting us as a tool to work with. And this particular tool that we have to work with is basically creating our own energetic sphere, or our own energetic atmosphere is the way that I like to talk about this. Because what they're saying is that when we start to step into the crystalline template and the crystalline energies, as we start to embrace the aquiline transmissions that are coming through, that we can begin to imagine that those are pouring into us through our shield or our field. And as it pours in, what we are really doing is allowing our shield to become fortified with this energy, as though we are now pulling ourselves into the timeline or the world, if you will. It's actually a different spectrum of existence, that when we start to tap into the aquiline transmissions, we are really stepping into a completely different Vecca system, a completely different world. We are stepping into a reality that exists within the Andromedan Mother galaxy, if you will. And as we connect into this energy, it's now as though we start to exist within that reality, that vibration, that template, that field of energy. And they're saying, as you pull that energy in, what you're doing is you're pulling yourself out of the first harmonic universe and into this new template. And as you do, you start to acclimate to the new atmosphere that feels right for you. And this new atmosphere becomes kind of like your spaceship. It becomes an energy field that's all the way around you. So no matter where you travel, no matter what you do, no matter whom you're talking to, you want to be within this field, as though, and the way I really like to look at it is as though you are in kind of like your own submarine vehicle. So no matter what compression the atmosphere is outside around you, you are actually stepping into this internal field. You're being within it, so it's always pressurizing your field to that which is in alignment to where your consciousness is attuning to. What frequency you are dialed into now is completely always locked in around you, so that you don't get hit by the waves of anything that's out of that alignment or out of that attunement when you move about in this first harmonic universe. So they're saying that in a lot of ways, what we are doing is we are being very mindful that when you leave your home, you want to really realize that your home kind of gets set with the frequency of your consciousness that you've been setting. So your home can become a sanctuary. It can become really your temple, your place where your energy is safe. But when we leave our home, when we leave out the front door or out the driveway, that we are now entering into an ocean of many different worlds, many different realities, many different densities that are happening simultaneously. So they say, get in your spaceship as you travel about. Get in that field so that as you travel, you start to realize that you are not existing in the same timeline or reality as a lot of the beings that you are actually interacting with. And as you do that, it's as though now you are pulling kind of outside of space and time, as you are now being more of an observer to this reality that we are in. At that same point, it's very helpful to realize that when we many times stay within our own atmosphere moving about, that we can almost be invisible to other individuals. So part of the gift is to also realize that we have the guardian dragon families, and the guardian dragons are going to be the guardians of the elementals. And what we do is we can call upon the guardian dragons, the guardian Christic dragons, to begin to kind of create an outer field around your spaceship, so to speak. And as you create that field around you, now they create a bit more of a physical tangibility so that others in the environment won't bump into you. This is really helpful for if you're driving a vehicle, if you're riding a bike. For if you are just out and about, you want to have a little bit of that extra, just a bit of guardianship. And a lot of times, what they're doing is they're kind of helping move the energy ahead of your ship as you're moving around. So, I wanted to invite that. That has been a tool that they've slightly been kind of modifying as they've shared it with us, starting closer to probably the springtime. They really started to get quite. Animate about us pulling out of the collective reality that others have been existing within, because there's too much volatility within the field. There are too many individuals that are running off of what we would call these Metatronic or these biode programs. And what this is that so much of the consciousness of humanity is hijacked by these other entities and beings from not only the lower astral worlds, but also from other systems, parallel systems, black hole systems, phantom systems that utilize a lot of technologies, basically the same kind of things as we would think of as radio waves or different kinds of signal waves that can then attune to our very frequencies within our mind and begin to hijack. And there's so many individuals that are so fractured or soul sharded that they are not operating their vehicle. They're very easy to be hopped onto by some of these beings in order to basically create chaos. And this is going to be something we're going to definitely touch into, because there has been some incidences, even within the soul circle and some of the group, that have had to deal with some of these beings. Basically, what we might think of as very fractured or very much puppets within the system, that these phantom or these AI influenced beings are being hijacked in order to create acts of harm or acts of aggression upon others. And so when we start to get really good at creating our shields before we leave the home, we start to become out of space and time with the same program that they are in. And we also become out of space and time in a lot of ways from even being visible from them. So I'm gonna start with that, as I kind of keep a track on some of what's going on in the chat here. So within that, just as a quick recap, just so you guys can kind of know what the energies have been. You guys have probably been feeling it since probably before, kind of around the beginning of July. We started to get a new wave of energy coming. The last about 2 to 3 days, it really peaked. So it was really peaking like on the 4th, the 5th, the 6th. Today is the 7th. And you might be able to feel it. It's actually starting to take a little bit of a dip. It's calming down a little bit today, a little bit today. So I've been joking with some of you guys that, to be aware that we have to really kind of pull into more of a conscious intention with our thoughts when these are happening. Um, when this is happening, we can really pull ourselves easily into the Aquarian matrix. We can easily pull ourselves into these higher dimensional frequencies to ride them out much easier. And it might feel all right, but if you really try to interact with the 3D world, a lot of times it can make you feel like you're really high, or you're really stoned, or like you're just having a hard time being in sync with everything. It can also many times make you kind of wonder, like, hey, why did I just put the milk in the cupboard? So just keeping track of the physicality of what you are working with. Within that, to also just recognize the sun has been, it's kind of moving out a little bit now, but we were in alignment to the Sirius star system. And as we've been in alignment to Sirius B into Sirius A, that's where our new moon energy sat. This is amplifying the vibrational energies of the corrected timelines that we are healing for the restoration of the sphere of Amenti. So, all the sphere of Amenti codes coming back online, accessing us back into our higher dimensional frequencies, starts to also excite and amplify what our consciousness is processing at the time. So if you guys, and I just have to see if you want to just type into the chat, what is your mental state been like in, say, the last 4 days, even dealing with this last wave. And the reason why I want to highlight this is because currently we are experiencing what is known as kind of an electrical wave. And this started towards the end of May. This electrical wave basically has a clockwise spin that's coming into it, which is basically bringing in information and energy. It's driving in the frequencies, and it's pulling in the Chevron waves. And I want to amplify a little bit for you guys. What are these Chevron waves when we talk about this, especially around the J seals? And this will help when we answer some of the questions. When we talk about the Chevron waves, we have to first have a perception of the cosmaya, or the cosmic universe. And as we get to look at this, we want to first and foremost understand that we are connected to something that would be called the core domain worlds, or the core suns. And what we get to recognize within our consciousness is that when we are ascending in consciousness, when we are accessing more and more dimensional spectrums of who we are actually going inward. And we can actually connect to the core domain worlds all the way down through dimension 1 into the core base templates, such as the platonic solids. And so, which then each Kathara tree of life, if you look at a Kathara tree of life and you look at where that tree of life places over your physical body, your first sphere, the first sphere of it, is actually in chakra 13, which is the crystalline core of Earth Mother. So your universal tree of life that you are expressing as part of creation is actually your root center. If you want to look at it that way, your root center is actually in the crystalline core of Earth. So we get to recognize that when we are actually accelerating, ascending, and integrating more and more levels of our consciousness, we're actually pulling inward more into the core domain energies within. So the core domain energies, when we start to connect to it, we would get to connect to a vibration that would be what would be called the eternal field of all creation. The eternal field of first intelligence is a way that is used through the Keylontic perspective. And the acronym for that would be EFFI, EFFI, this eternal first field of intelligence, basically the source of all that is, the eternal first thought. And as we get to connect to this vibrational energy, the first projection of that would be something known as Sun 1. Okay. Now, Sun 1 would be the first emanation out. It would be our core sun. It would be that which is untouchable by all that is ever experienced or expressed in any Veka system, in all the infinite that we don't even know about systems out there, that there is no polarity within it. It is Sun 1. It is the original and the core sun template. When we connect to the Aqualine Sun and the Aqualine Sun transmissions, the Aqualine Sun holds the absolute template of this Sun 1. So this is why we are receiving these core transmissions right now, because as we receive this energy and work with these photonic technologies, they are completely correcting is just a great way of saying it. Basically, think of it as coming in like a flash drive and resetting all of the corrupted files that have happened in this core system. And they're flashing them and resetting them back to the core domain, or rebooting it back to factory settings, so to speak, if we want to use computer terms on this. So within this, now I'm gonna say the next thing, and it'll be less confusing for you guys. I think you'll click right into this. From Sun 1 then emanates the 7 suns. Okay, so from the core, then we have the emanation of all the sound tones of creation, and we know those as Ka, Ra, Ya, Sa, Ta, Ha, La. Ka, Ra, Ya, Sa, Ta, Ha, La. Ka, Ra, Ya, Sa, Ta, Ha, La. Karaya satahala. Karaya satahala. One more time. Karaya satahala. These are the 7 suns, the 7 emanations. Each one has a different tone. Each one creates a different field of consciousness, different consciousness families. And this would be something I'd have to do an entire kind of presentation on, just to break down how the families, the Ya families, the Ra families. We all know the term Ra, the families of Ra. So when we think of, there's also the Ra Ya, they start to combine in as different combined families. And these then give emanation to the angelic realms. So within original first creation, we have these original emanations. Think of the core sun, Sun 1, as if the sun is shining. And then as it shines out, it creates almost like a prism, like a spectrum, like as if you had one of those crystals that the sun shone through it and it emanated out the 7 sound tones, or the 7 rays. And each of those then became all that started to create creation. Now, within that, we get to recognize the arcs, the ways in which the light moves. So within each of these sound tones, now imagine we have had these chevron waves that have been coming through, and there have been 8 that have come through. And now you get a better understanding of what are these 8. The first 7 that were coming through were the waves that really had the ability to start to create an impulse, kind of like a sound. Think about like a reverberation, like putting the bass on your speaker really loud. It's going to shake you up. And if you start to feel that sound going out through creation, these waves started to tone out, and we started to get that tone all the way here into our Veka system, our time matrix. And it began to pour in primarily through the Aqualine Sun transmissions. As it began to pour through, it had a direct effect on the J Seals technology. So these are beast machine technologies that were created by the Arcturian Anunnaki beings in the Phantom Matrix. And as they created these technologies, what all of these technologies were is that they were designed. So I'm actually answering one question that was in the group, and it was asking about these solar flares. So here's how this works. Solar flares happen in known cycles. They're not a mystery. The solar flares happen at different activation cycles, and it's the excitement of the energies of the alignment, say, to the photonic belt or to these clearer alignments to the higher suns, that then begins to activate our sun, that starts to create these solar flares on them. As the solar flares come, yes, they are designed to hold the energy of what is being projected onto them and exciting them as waves that begin to excite our crystals in our body and activate our consciousness into awakening. Okay. But the APIN system, or the dove grid system that was on the planet by these Arcturian Anunnakis that created these Jehovian seals upon the planet, what those technologies were is they were technologies that put caps on our particular crystals in our body that kept us from receiving these codes and activating. Not only that, they had carrier waves that would ride off of these solar waves, so that we would get the organic wave, but on the back end of it would have been like a virus. It's kind of like those viruses, the computer virus or something. You open something and all of a sudden it unleashes a packet into your computer. So on the back end is these viruses, and these viruses basically would activate these kill switches in our body, which is what the Jehovian seals were designed for. They were designed to activate miasms in our body, diseases in our body, activations of mental distortions, blockages on the pineal gland, basically dumb us down, make us sick, and basically 666 seals of death seals within our body. So it's all about limiting any of the angelic human race line from receiving any of the true plasma waves coming in from the higher suns, so that they would not turn on all the activations, wouldn't rapid fire in sequation of this process, and they would miss activating or opening up enough to get through. So think about it too, like a rocket ship, that as a rocket is going out, it has to fire a bunch of these things in sequence. We're no different than that. In order for us to move through these halls, the Amenti passages, we have to actually open up certain things in our ascension process in order to accelerate our energy fields enough to move through these higher radon bands of frequency. Otherwise, what do? You burn up in the atmosphere. You don't make it. So when we get to recognize these Chevron waves have been coming in, we had a massive one come in May. Now, as that comes in, it's pushing in an energy. It's that electrical wave. It comes in as a wave like this, but waves go back and forth, right? So as that wave comes in August, probably about the middle, not, let's just say we're going to start feeling it by the first week of August. By the first week of August, as this electric wave has been downpouring all of this impulse of energy, just electrical wave, downloads, like just bringing in, filling us up, filling us up, filling us up. Then in August, it's going to flip. Okay. And when it flips, it's going to go magnetic. So that means that as it flips, it's going to now start pulling out, pulling out, pulling out, pulling out. So this is really something important that we can work with at this time, that as you are feeling these things and sometimes going like, man, is this going to stop? This feels really intense. Oh my gosh, I'm dealing with all of these things. I get a lot of uh, comments and posts from individuals, sometimes feeling as though they're overwhelmed by what is happening, almost like I can't handle it anymore. And just please know it is a wave, it's going to go, and the more we handle it with the crystal light, it is going to open up to now where we're going to be able to start to pull out all of that, pull out all of that. That we are here to heal that miasm. So the chevron waves again are basically the direct sounds coming from these higher suns that are waving through the karaya satahala and just fully and completely hitting the Jehovian waves. And when they hit them, they are at the perfect frequency to match them and break them up, basically dissipate them. And not only that, then all the energy that was the Jehovian transmissions now start to get pulled into the chevron waves and transformed into that frequency, which is pretty amazing. So just, you guys, I want to be really transparent with you guys that these are waves, so more waves are coming. They're going to be continuing all the way through 2025. So we are not complete with this, and this is why I have been guided by the guardians to really share a lot of the messages about the Jehovian seals so that we can do our own internal processes to begin clearing that energy out. So with that, let's go ahead and start diving into some of these questions. And I wanted to touch on a couple of things, but we'll get right into it. Like Valerie, I went to sleep quite early, waking in the middle of the night, having a hard time to fall asleep. Have been so tired every day since Tuesday. Yeah, also been emotional and yes, um, feeling kind of stoned. Not able to communicate clearly with others. Better today. Oh, see, yeah, thank you so much for that. It is really interesting sometimes to just kind of feel like, whoo, there's just so much moving through here that it's just like, no, I swear I'm not high. I don't know why I put the milk there, but it's cool. Feeling Olga saying also felt like I was going crazy, couldn't sleep well, nerve pain, couldn't handle. Oh, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. Yeah, especially if there is any autoimmune or any of those kind of things, more severe things within the body. This, I just hold so much love and space for you as well as everyone else that is having to process that level of energy through the body, because it's going to exacerbate aches, pains, joint pain, nerve pain, sometimes migraines or headaches or these kinds of things, because that is just putting a lot more pressure on the channels of energy in the body. So, this is where hopefully, if there are beautiful suggestions to work with, um, we can share those with each other. Communication has been horrible for me as well. Yes, it is. It has, and even today, I can feel myself. It's like they're downloading all of this energy, and I'm just like, okay, you got to slow it down because my mouth doesn't work quite like how fast they drive stuff through sometimes. And I will say, this is a new experience for me that I've been watching through these waves is that, especially even communication through emails, through, I notice even my contact form hasn't always been working for everybody in this time. So anything I think to do with communication starts to create a little bit of a disruption. So let's go ahead and dive into some of these questions. There are some amazing ones, you guys. So let's go ahead and have fun. The first thing I wanted to touch on is the new topic of really working with sidereal astrology or true sky astrology, the true constellations in the sky. And I wanted to just clarify very quickly a couple of things. And I also wanted to put a little bit of a disclaimer and a please and an ask um, within this, especially when it comes to the stellar nations. I just want to start with this. The charts that they do for you when you get your Antares code is perfect. Don't worry about it. Just get your Antares code. Just ask for it, get it printed out. Please do not worry about whether it's in tropical or sidereal, and here's why. And I say this because I I was having a chat with Leslie, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, they are getting flooded with people that are asking about sidereal astrology." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I tried to make it clear that no, your Antares chart is perfect just the way they give it to you. You do not need to ask them for the sidereal. In fact, it'll probably mess it up if you ask them to do it in a different format, and I will tell you why. So, within this, I do want to say that when we look at True Sky Sidereal, especially through the site by Athen, we are only looking at the change of what might be the constellation behind the planet or the energy. Okay. So when you get your true sidereal chart and you put it next to your tropical chart, all the planets are the same. They're going to be wherever they're going to be. I've also been guided by the guardians. Don't touch your human design. Don't worry about that either. Leave it alone. Just use it from the tropical alignments. All the gates are correct right where they are. The only thing that changes is that, for instance, if your sun is in, say, Gemini, or for instance, for all of my beautiful family out there that has been told that you are Cancer, and at this point in time, we are still in Gemini. So that's the energy that we're working with. So a lot of times, if you think you're a Gemini, you're actually probably a Taurus. There's certain signs that are just a lot bigger. For instance, I have a tropical sun sign of Aquarius, but in the sidereal and the true sky, I'm actually fall under the stars of the Capricornus. So it would be Capricorn energy that I would tap into within my chart. So within this, the very clear thing to understand is that the stars are wherever they are. The only difference is that the tropical star chart was designed in order to create even quartered houses, or not houses, but even quartered constellations in order to follow the ecliptic of the seasons upon the earth. That's it. So they actually started to call certain astrological signs a new name outside of their own constellation. When we move to true sky astrology, we are now looking at what is actually up in the sky above us. And so right now we know on the planet, everybody's running around saying, "Oh, we're in Cancer. We're in the sign of Cancer. We're in the sign of Cancer." But if you look up, we're actually still under the stars of Gemini. So please just know that that's the only thing that's changing, is that we are being more mindful of what is the true vibration of the emanation of the neutrinos and the light that is coming to us. Your human design chart, keep it the same. The only thing you will do is maybe just look at, oh, what would the energy be like if I was actually not Cancer, but actually being able to be in, say, a Gemini energy, something to that effect. Now, as we get to look at this, please note that fixed stars are fixed stars. So if they are aligned to your planet in a tropical, they're going to be the exact same fixed stars that are aligned to your chart in a sidereal. A fixed star is a fixed star. So I hope that that makes sense for everyone, in the sense that I want to keep it simple. We don't need to make it super confusing for people who are pulling charts for us. If you're getting chart readings from other people, if you're getting your Antares code for the stellar nations and all of these things, just take it, receive it however it comes. Your only job is to then just maybe look at, go like, oh, it says Sagittarius, but it's actually really Ophiuchus energy, or maybe it's Scorpio energy. So that's the only thing you're going to be doing, is just actually looking at what is the true sky that you are working with. So I hope that simplifies things, and I hope that also uh, helps a little bit for Aya, or Bea and Aniko, as they're doing a lot of Stellar Nations charts for people right now, because there is such a new wave of energy of people getting uh, aware of this, that I'm so grateful that people are getting to get their charts done. Um, Natalie, sadly can't communicate with my guides from using my pendulum, but trusting my body pendulum instead for now. Yes, so good to be able to do that. And yeah, definitely communication is it is a challenge. Um, Nano Zeolite has helped with all of this. Took 4 weeks to see effect. Please research and consider if this is right for you. And I think that's in regards to with for the body aches and pains and maybe different autoimmune with the body. So that's amazing. Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. So moving on to our next question. We got a question that came through and it asked, working with symbols and sigils. And it was asking, how do I activate these symbols? I want to use them. Do I have to go through a sigil step by step or program it or activate it in some way? Is there hoops or things that we need to do to activate or work with a lot of the symbols or sigils is another way of saying these symbols. And what we want to realize is that, especially when we're looking at symbols, say it's the Akasha symbol, say it is any of the number of different symbols, say from the Kushardeza Dadrueja Raeka. So, like the symbols that we would use, which are representation of the light language for clearing out the J seals, that those are all images. And within the higher levels of consciousness, crystalline consciousness, we speak more with these symbols or light language. And our eyes as the window of the soul, when we receive these images imprinted upon our eyes automatically transmit them into our light language sequence for our receiving of them into our DNA, into our repatterning. So they're already activating within us. The real power of working with symbols and also being aware of why are there so many symbols that are actually used for programming humanity is because all we really have to do is see them, and they automatically are transmitting a message directly in to our deep subconscious. So this is actually something really important for us to realize, and why it's really helpful to have a lot of your sacred symbols, sacred geometries all around your house. Whether you've tattooed them on you, whether you have them on walls, whether you put them on stickers, wherever you have them, they're actually a really great way to constantly keep embedded within your energy system what you are choosing to align to. And there are definitely ways in which, when you sit with a symbol and understand if there is a tone that goes with it, or if there is a meaning that we've been able to translate behind it, that the more that you understand that, the more that you can begin to have a little bit of that conscious awareness that starts to say, this is what I'm choosing, this is what I am aligning to, this is what I consent to. And that is a powerful way to work with it. So now, as we move on to the next one, we touched on this one already, but I wanted to just kind of address this, that this was a question. um, but someone was saying that they were studying a lot of Ashiana Dean's books and watching the videos, and had to come to believe that the massive solar flare would activate DNA and take us to ascension, and that they were now starting to get information that it was new age distortions and concepts. So I wanted to just say that was part of why I went into explanation on the Chevron waves and to how the J seals and the beast machine technologies were actually harnessing those solar waves. So we can understand that these energies are going to come through, and they are here to accelerate, basically update you. Every time, you're told, hey, it's time to update your computer, it's time to update something. These are like updates for our crystals in our bioregenesis vehicle, and as we start to receive them, now that the impeding frequencies are not blocking them. And as we are consciously and intentionally doing the work to actually clear the crystal so that they can receive the energy, we are now going to be able to receive those vibrations so that it is accelerating our consciousness. Right now, the way that we experience consciousness ascension is the fact that we can have these kind of conversations. It's about being able to understand things much clearer, being able to move through deeper topics, deeper gnosis, deeper wisdom, and to feel as though the things that say maybe you were talking about 10 years ago, maybe even just 5 years ago, would feel almost like, oh yeah, man, totally moved past that. We're already on to this. That's what ascension is. The ascension is our ability to process more and more and more complex understandings of our cosmology and have more of a way of to work with it intentionally as co-creators, so that we'll eventually step up as galactic ambassadors and everything will be like a mystery because we'll be mature enough to calm our emotions, not be so all over the place, not be, you know, dealing with things. A lot of times, we still deal with things a little bit like toddlers, as far as how we handle our emotions or what we're dealing with, or if we get depressed, or if we feel like we're being overwhelmed by things. The guides love us so much. They just keep bringing us back. Bring back the breath, come back into center, calm yourself. We got this. It's not your first ascension you've ever ridden. We can do this. So just know we're we have, I think if there is a um using the term here, new age distortion. The new age distortion has been putting the seed in people's heads that something magically was going to switch overnight and you were going to wake up in this fairy tale land with rainbows and unicorns and magical dolphins like taking you for rides and all of these guides and guardians walking all around you. What the ascension is you waking up and recognizing, oh wait, I am walking around with all these guides and guardians, and guess what, I'm seeing all of you right here in this Zoom. The ascension is waking up and remembering your angelic inheritance, your angelic family, and remembering who you are. And the ascension is waking up to remember why the heck you're here and getting to it. That you are the voyager, you are the guardian, you are the traveler, so to speak. And so as we remember that more, we start to step back into uh beginning to sense that connection to the guardian forces. um and there's something about saying the next ascension opportunity will be very far away in the future. I'm going to say this with so much love. Our ascension opportunity is right here and right now. And our greatest doorway of our ascension is going to be when we leave the body. When we transition and come to completion with this life cycle, because the ascension process is actually going on longer than this lifetime that we're in. It has a wave that it's moving. All of these little star seeds wouldn't be born being be bothering to be born and come in right now if they were like, oh, it's going to end next week anyways, why am I here? I'm only going to make it to 7 and then we're all going to leave. No, they're coming in because they're going to be the future adults that are going to take the waves to the next levels, right? So for all intents and purposes, all of us are probably going to go through a full life cycle and also go through that transition of the stargate at the time of death. that is our ascension gateway right there. And all of our work that we do in order to remember who we are, clear up our Bardo chamber, remember our trajectory of where we are going, that when we awake, oh my gosh, and I got to tell you guys this. We have the funniest neighbor, and she's older, and she just says the craziest things, and she's all like, nope, nope, someday I just want to wake up dead. That's it. I just want to be like, here I am, I'm alive, and then I just want to wake up dead. And I just was all like, oh my gosh, I got to borrow that. That was so amazing. And you'd have to see her. It's just when she says it, she's so serious. She's like, nope, I'm just going to wake up dead one day and it'll be great. And it's in a lot of ways, I was like, oh my gosh, that's super profound in how she says it. Cause we truly do when our consciousness eventually, and when our seed atom disengages. We're doing the work to clear our primary seed atom from any connections to our family tree, our lineage line, and then also accelerating the quantum in its energy so that at the time of death, when our spirit moves, that our plasma field is strong enough to move through all the stations of the Bardo chamber without it dissipating and fizzling away, so that we basically are that rocket ship that goes boop boom, just crashes back down. We don't want to get pulled back into the gravitational field of Earth. We truly want our Bardo chamber to be so fortified so that when we leave the body, it is like that rocket ship that moves past the atmospheres of any magnetic hold of this planetary system, and we align ourselves back. And, you know, again, the Aqualine families, the Aquarius families from the Andromedan Mother Galaxy are holding host template right now. So that if we choose, we can actually take on one of those bodies in our next incarnational cycle, or whatever else you choose. But just know that there is no missing the boat, so to speak. At this point in time, we have open energy, um access points again, that are helping us to really truly be cleared with the bindings that we've had here, should we choose. So now let's get into this next question here. And there was another question. Let's go ahead and kind of tie this in. So we are talking about these waves of energy coming through, and let's tie it in with this particular question. And when they were saying that after the seal removal process, I was so tired. So I feel that tiredness is a good thing and could be a symptom of purging after seal removal. Could you elaborate on exhaustion, tiredness, and other symptoms after a seal removal? Perfect. So this is huge. And this is actually something that, whether it's a seal or implant clearing, or sometimes if we just go through a major clearing of something, we might feel wiped out. We might feel like, whoo, that is a lot. And it's not much different than going through a detoxification process. So we are detoxing a lot of things out of the body. We are now kind of having etherically a lot of things surgically removed from us, and our body has to go through a reintegration and a reprocessing of that energy. So the more that moves, the more that it was maybe embedded with certain things that might have had miasmic triggers to it. Sometimes just the moving or the triggering and the clearing of those energies exasperates that as something for the body to process. This is also in the same effect. I don't know why, but we're just using a lot of computer programming metaphors today. But it's not much different than, say, when you have to do an update on your phone's got to shut down in order for that update to happen. And before it reboots and restarts again with the new information in there. So it is actually really a positive sign in a lot of ways, that when we kind of get really tired or feel like we really need to rest, whether it's through these Chevron waves and these new energies that we're feeling on the planet, we are experiencing these massive resets in our body. And it's not much different than, say, when we were children, or I know we go through another spurt, I think around teenage years, where we go through these growth spurts. And there's times, say, when we were children, that we would take naps or that we would get tired or we would need to rest because we were going through major growth spurts, and the body kind of needs us to shut down so that it can actually utilize all energy in order to reset everything within it. So absolutely, it is not a bad thing to go through a clearing, an implant removal, or to actually purge out massive energies or influences, say from ancestral karma or debt, that when we clear it, our body sometimes feels like, whoo, I need to chill, I need to rest, I need to just hang out. So, absolutely. Um, the secondary question on this was, is it all right to listen to the seal removal programming multiple times after? Absolutely. I definitely encourage that if you are still processing any of the energy. Listen to it as many times as you need. And then also, the encouragement beyond that is to begin to modify it a little bit. That as you go through it, you can start to understand what it is, so that if you need to maybe add something else, or if you're feeling something, that you can also tap into that and move that out. And then this question, so these are all kind of in regards to the session. Also asking, do you recommend a regimen for souls that you took through the seal clearing? Maybe something, I'm assuming this is something that can be done in order to help maybe either facilitate it or work with it. Basically, it's not much different than going through any other clearing process that we do. So, really, you want to be mindful of what starts to come up, what starts to change in your mental, emotional, or physical landscape. A lot of times, again, the body's purging out. We're clearing things through all the different layers of our light body, which means that that then has to translate into our physical body, which has been running off of the crystalline records and our light language of our DNA. And as our DNA changes, then that message has to go in and now change all of the physical messages in all of our muscles and our tissues and our nervous system and our body. So it's like it goes all the way in and then it purges all the way out on the physical level. So within that, the encouragement is to definitely journal, see what comes up, gently keep facilitating the clearing process by either going through it again, going for walks is a huge big thing. So anything that's gentle or supportive of basically moving the energy in the body in order for things to basically clear out. Or if your body's telling you it's tired, then go ahead and definitely take a nap. Naps are good. I don't get to do them very often, but I feel like I want to tell the world if I ever get to. Let's grab onto this next one. Just checking. I just want to answer this. So chevrons are clearing us out. That explains a lot. I thought I was just getting repeatedly attacked the past several months. Yeah, and unfortunately, for individuals that are just starting to maybe tap into ancestral karma, debt, programming, clearing out the things that have been keeping us looped into a lot of the reversal programming upon the planet. If we're still kind of in the middle of that process, or haven't fully come into a state of really being at a place of neutral, compassionate witness and peace with where we're at, no matter what's going on, these energies coming through are going to hit on all of those distortion places that we still have a level of miasm or confusion with. And it just starts to reverberate the energy. And it's like having a lot of stereos on at the same time. It's going to just kind of make us feel like we're going a little bit crazy. So this is where getting in a regimen of starting to just be dedicated to going through, and through your free will and intent, cancel and delete. all these things. And we'll talk a little bit with this next question. This next question was asking, is there a simple way of describing the concept of dumping karma? They're like, I tried looking it up on Google, but only got nonsense. I can only imagine what Google would have would have popped up. So, I this is a term that I use quite a bit, especially when we're referring to a lot of the multidimensional and extraterrestrial races. When we are dealing with any of the phantom system races, if we're dealing with any anti-Christic races, Luciferic races, satanic races, draconian, again, these are like the anti-Christic draconian races, the anti-Christic Anunnaki races. We are talking about beings that have been spending millions of years dumping their karma on the genetics of humanity. Okay, so karmic dumping is very, very real. And it's physics, it's just physics. And again, remember, they have been working with the Ascension mechanics for a really long time. Thank you, Toth, for stealing the CDT plates and getting it into the wrong hands. And right, so then they have the ability to know exactly how the energy streams of this universal matrix works. And when we think of karma, we're looking at roughly the law of cause and effect, which says that every action that we put out into the template of creation will always come back to us. But they have found loopholes in the system that if they can put that act and then they can, through blood ritual, blood sacrifice, through genetic lineage dumping, they can now tie that karma to another being or another species, then they actually kind of put a loophole in that cause and effect. And so they will do the cause. And when the effect comes back, it dumps onto whomever they did that blood ritual on. Okay. So let me explain it this way as well. This is also done in ways that are unknowing. So sometimes um we are dealing with a lot of karma that is in our system that is just ours because it came through the genetic family tree of our ancestors before us. And so our ancestors will put into the waves of creation cause. They will cause action. They will go out and they will do things. They will have a life experience. But they will also not process all the way what maybe came up in that lifetime. And a lot of them will stay bound in the fractured fields of either the fourth astral realm or even in the second dimensional realm of where the soul fracturing happens. So they're still bound to the earth template. And then within that, they then continue to basically um, be soul fragments within our DNA. So they can stay a soul fragment or a voice within our genetic family lineage line for generation after generation after generation. So basically, we a lot of times are carrying the karma and debt of our ancestors before us because they just kept passing that debt forward to the future generations. They didn't deal with it, they didn't handle it. They just passed it on to the next genetic lineage line. Okay. So this is also something we work with within the clearings as we start to say, no, I'm sorry, and we can see this in so many different ways, even through the financial state of the different countries that we're in, we can see that the children inherit the debt of the generations before them, right? And then they have to deal with that mess. When you were born into this body, you got to deal with that as well of what came forward. But when we wake up, this is what the ascension's all about. We wake up and we go like, wait a minute, I remember who I am. And then we say, no, I do not consent to perpetuating an out of balance system that is not putting the corrected cause and effect into its source of origin. So we take all karma and debt that we are holding in our template, and we now start to take it and hand it back to the Anunnakis. We hand it back to the Draconians. We hand it back to the phantom beings. We hand it back to grandma and grandpa. We hand it back to mom and dad. We hand it back to our ancestors past. We put it all back to the correct original places it originated so that it can begin to put all the puzzle pieces back where they belong within creation so that energy can begin to flow correctly again. And this is what starts to unbind us from what is also recognized as the wheels of reincarnation. When we look at that, that we get to recognize that a lot of times these wheels of reincarnation go on way longer than they should because of this karma dumping that happens, that we've probably lived so many lifetimes that we never even were ourselves. We just lived our whole life from the programs of the karma that we were holding in that lifetime. Whereas we then get to recognize that part of the energy of creating these bardo chambers is to start to say, no, I don't consent to this. I'm not paying your credit card bills. I didn't I didn't get all the fun toys that you bought with that credit card. I don't want none of that. I'm giving it back. And so we just start to say, no, no, no. You are responsible for your energy. You are responsible for your actions. You are responsible for what you put into the waves of creation. And I will not consent to perpetuating throwing creation out of balance ever again. I am sovereign and I am free, is that energy that we hold within there. So, within that, as we get to work with that, that is basically what karma dumping is. Karma dumping is most times done unknowingly, especially through family lineage lines, and then we clear it. But there are ritualistic. This is uh, pretty much the satanic rituals, blood sacrifice, sexual sacrifice. So just know that it's through the blood and the sexual fluids that bindings of karma can get passed on. And so and I know this is definitely a touchy topic to put in such a public forum, but for any that have gone through sexual traumas in this lifetime or in past record lifetimes, that it's important to understand that a lot of times it's entities and attachments on the individual being the perpetrator in that act that are then using that individual to embed implants, tags, or seals of ownership, kind of tagging into the bloodline through that act. And then through that binding, it can actually many times follow for generations. So, what we are realizing is that who we are in the now has the ability to change every holographic expression we have ever been in creation. So, who you are now can change every lifetime that you've ever been in, whether in this body, in this planet, any other planet. Your ability to catch that energy, begin to do the clearing that's required in order to unbind, unwind, uncast, undo the rituals around it, basically purify the blood. You can purify your blood through the crystal river spiral. Pull it in. The aqualine technologies, pour it in. Give yourself a blood transfusion with the aqualine sun transmissions and technologies, and begin to clear out all of those ritualistic uh, practices that were done on the human species by a lot of these multidimensionals or extraterrestrial races, that we can then start to say, no way, no, 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 I do not belong to you. And we clear it now. So, when we are, for those of you that are guided to work with spirits on the planet, please know that a lot of the Bardo chambers that you are working with is clearing blood sacrifice and blood ritual. Blood sacrifice and blood ritual isn't just the Phoenician type stuff of like people taking their children to the temple to be sacrificed. This blood sacrifice is perpetuated by every religion on the planet that has started wars. We know that religion is behind the biggest perpetuator of war on the planet. War is the ultimate ritual of blood sacrifice. It pours gallons and gallons and gallons of our sacred star fire into the earth that they then put their own overlays over, and then it seeps into earth mother, and this is part of that phantom matrix binding that we've been dealing with. Right. So when we come and reclaim our sovereignty, we are reclaiming our star fire. We are reclaiming that for our ancestors. We are reclaiming that for our angelic or our fem families. And we began to unbind all of these reversal incantations, rituals, and reversal geometries that they've used to cast all of these spells upon humanity. And we free ourselves through our reclamation of sovereignty from all of those anti-Christic acts against humanity. And then we become freed from these debts that were never ours in the first place. So, hopefully that is something that can be useful for each of you to work with on a little bit of a deeper level, and that's something I feel like we could do an entire course on that, because there's so many levels to it. I think I want to do an entire course on just what are all the different entities, energies, astral beings, and spirits that we deal with, because it's really quite complex. What we're not just dealing with ghosts or spirits. There's so many different levels to them, and they all are so different in how they interact with our system. And for some of you out there that are dealing with some of the more challenging ones, I've had quite a few of you reach out that have had um energies that are really, really, really bound and really dark, and that have been not only tied into you but your family and for multiple generations. And these are the kind of things that are coming up now to really for us to begin to accelerate and clear, is the things that have been so heavy on us for so long that they have kept us bound for literally entire, like, millennias of time. It's just quite crazy. Um I want to now touch into this because it leads right into it, and before we kind of change the topic on the next questions, this next one, it was asking, so this particular individual, I love you so much. I'm actually, I'm trying to scan really quick to see if you're here. But this question was asking about how can we set up a bardo passage, or a safe passage chamber in order to assist souls in, say, a land or a building or a larger space other than just our bodies. So a lot of times we create this safe passage bardo chamber of light, and again, that PDF is free. If you go to the courses link on withbecca.com, you can grab that. It's a whole little ceremony that you can do in order to help assist and guide souls into being free to connect with their universal family tree of life, and it works regardless of time. So it is something that if there are entities, spirits, or attachments that are connected to you, it doesn't matter if they're, spirits that have been wandering for 100 years, a million years, it doesn't matter. Time is irrelevant within that realm. The minute that you connect to them, you're connecting to them in the now, and you can begin to utilize that process in order to guide and assist them. Now, there are individuals that do work in buildings or in locations, or maybe you're traveling and you come to a grid on the land where a mass war happened, or a huge massacre maybe happened. Maybe a bunch of souls died through a fire or through something, and so their souls are still bound. So what you would do is basically imagine that bardo chamber of light. You would open up the space that would create the guardian councils to become aware of all souls and all beings that are present within that space. And in that moment, you open up almost as though all of the guardians then locate the higher selves for all of those beings, and you can set it up as a space that is set for past, present, or future, for any beings past, for any beings present, and any beings in the future that may ever wander to this space as they are looking for something and be able to find their passage home. So we start to now create it where you're creating it, just expanding the verbiage to include all of these spirits, entities, and beings that are seeking safe passage home. And then you can again go through that ceremony. Now, within that space, if it is a building where there is maybe souls close to end of life or transitioning, so this might be nursing homes, this might be hospitals, this might be ER kind of places, things like this. Um, uh, oh, and a really intense one, if you guys want to go for a challenge, is to if you're called to create these around, say, mental hospitals. That'll give you something interesting to witness in this earth plane. But when you create these, you're basically creating it so that there's almost an open doorway, knowing that, say, in a hospital someone's probably passing, like, at minimum at least every day within in hospitals, especially larger hospitals or things like this. There's they're designed, hospitals are designed through their steel structures, to basically make it very difficult for a soul to get out, so they get stuck with a lot of wandering souls. And then guess who they attach to when you go and visit someone in a hospital? Your little bright light shining down the hall. They're like, oh, there's my light I've been looking for. So, you guys probably heard me talk a few times. It's like, like, I shield up like crazy before I go into a hospital. And then afterwards, I still have to go through a whole clearing process because there's so many entities there. And then, I know this is going to be controversial in a lot of ways, but this is just the way that it is. The hospitals, through the way their structures are and who they serve, they are also ritual centers. They are also blood sacrifice ritual centers. And unfortunately, the beings that are called to serve in these places are completely unaware of who has created. And that's why we have so many doctors and so many beings that don't resonate with the way that the system works, because the system is designed to basically perpetuate this blood ritual that has been going on. And I could go in a lot deeper into that, but for the most part, we want to recognize that, when we are working with these Bardo chambers, you can kind of work with them anywhere on planet Earth. They're going to be everywhere. If you are aware enough to do grid work and stand in a point in time, this is a really fun thing for you guys, for all my time travelers out there. Stand in a grid point. Don't do this in your car, though. Don't do this in your car. Do this standing somewhere. Go stand on a sidewalk somewhere and just stand there. And then let your consciousness begin to move through all the layers of time, past, present, and future, into the very spot where you are standing. And let yourself begin to feel every other being, every other energy that ever also shared that exact space where you were standing. And you can begin to see that time is actually really important in a time matrix. Because if we didn't have time, we would all be running into each other. So, time is actually an extra dimension that allows us to occupy the same space, but at a different time, or else it's called an accident, right? We bump into each other. So, if you stand in a particular place and you actually start to let yourself move through the bands of time, you can actually begin to tap into all histories that have ever taken place on that land grid. And I'll just leave it at that for now, for you guys to play with. It is quite an intense process. So you could go to your local park and just stand there and you can go like, "Oh, it's so beautiful here." But if you stand there, you could go like, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea that 100 years ago this is what was happening here, or 1,000 years this is what was happening here." And oh, well, no wonder it feels weird when I walk through here because there was a whole, battle zone or something that happened on that landmass, and that's how we feel it. And then we can then begin to create this bardo chamber of light and to remember that it is outside of time. So therefore, it doesn't matter what timeline we're tapping into on that land grid, we can now access exactly whatever is stuck in those layers of time in order for it to be free. And this is really also a neat practice that you can work with if you are looking for access points to aspects of yourself that has gifts and capabilities. I like this. Okay, I'm just some of you are dealing with are working with some really high level time travel stuff right now. So I'm just gonna play with you guys a little bit. Okay, ready? So when you are here within this now field, you become the 0 point field. You have the ability to access all avatars you have ever been. Okay, you have the ability to tap in, and this really is about going into that core domain spark that you are. And when you do, you can say then connect to the all 12 aspects of you that come from your soul field, all 12 probability timelines that you are. Okay, then you could choose to go into your core domain and then tap into all 12 soul avatars that you are that are expressing as 144 seed atoms in creation, 144 probabilities. Okay, let's just stop with that right now. It actually goes out into the thousands if you wanted to connect to it. Okay, so now you can imagine that within that, there's also all of these probability timelines out there. So you can step within this and you can begin to scan through the fields. I kind of like of it thinking like, you just swipe, swipe through the pictures till you get to the one you want. Swipe through the different dimensional realities. Just swipe, swipe, swipe. So if you're looking for a healthy immune system, scan through all the different probabilities of self until you can connect to the aspect of self that has a healthy immune system. Click into that, line it up, and pull it into the now. You can swipe through to find where you had the access points to the remembrance of working with special gifts, capabilities, memory timelines, these kinds of things, and then begin to pull these aspects in. You start to merge these aspects in. So, this is just another way that we get to realize time is just a dimensional aspect that we're working with here within a time matrix. The time matrix is itty bitty tiny compared to the cosmaya of the universe that most exists outside of time. It's not locked or bound by time. So when we start to learn to move out and to float in that level of consciousness, then we start to become kind of like these masters, like the Ontarians, that are these light weavers and master electricians of timelines and energy flows in the universe. And we start to get to see probability timelines and how to correct. This is how we correct our future potential timelines. Okay, so just one more for you guys. You guys got to play with this stuff. It's amazing. So now you imagine, well, here I am. I just did a J seal clearing. Now what? Well, here's what. You want to play with this aspect of remembering that we are an emanation of a projection of what is held within our templates and our fields. And as it clears in our outer light body, then it starts to shift and change the projections within our consciousness template and how we begin to see the lens of the world around us and how we start to now believe, manifest, and intend our future forward. But guess what? You already have potential future timelines that you've created based on your limiting beliefs from the past. Okay. So if you haven't done the clearing work, you might have limiting potential future timelines that are, who knows, maybe acting out now that you created when you were 5 that says nobody loves me, nobody listens to me, nobody takes me seriously. And you keep wondering, why doesn't anybody ever take me seriously in this life? Well, it's because you're constantly living on that projected timeline of nobody takes me seriously. So when you go in and you clear the limiting belief and you find the point of origin and you return the karma to where it came from and you reset that timeline, guess what's still in your probability of your future timelines? So now you want to remember that every clearing you do, you also want to go in and then you want to reset. And you're not only resetting your template of now, brand new now, but now you also want to go and scan forward into all potential future timelines because your future is happening in the now. The second harmonic universe is your future timeline. The third harmonic universe is even a more advanced future you. The fourth harmonic universe is an even more future you. They're already happening in the now. So when you're reaching out to your guides and your guardians, you're just knocking on your future door, your future self door, most of the times. And so when you acknowledge, okay, my potential future timelines are already quantumly in the now, I want to now also go through and purge and flash that alkaline sun energy through and reset all potential future timelines now with the new upgraded me, the new upgraded of what I am intending into the future to be. Reset now. It's just kind of like going like, nope, I don't. Oh yeah, nope, I'm not doing that anymore. Oh yeah, reset it all now, and my goodness, get creative. Reset it with magic, abundance, beauty, fun, health, vitality, wonder. We get so limited by the collective conscious programming of Earth that a lot of times we don't even feel safe to ask for much. Just enough to get by. That's all I need. It's like, stop it. How are we ever all gonna like just make this whole dream happen if we keep limiting what we think that we need? And that means we're limiting what we think creation should be in some ways. So, um, yeah, that was quite a little bit of a lateral on the Bardo chambers. Play with them, work with them. They open up so many different ways that we can be here for creation. We, honey, you guys, oh my gosh, I love you guys so much. Please hear this with me. We are barely at the precipice of realizing how freaking cool we are. We haven't even recognized the most of our advanced technologies that are just embedded within our consciousness and our gifts and capabilities that we have through moving the light through us. And, I mean, these are just little things that we get to start to play with. But imagine when we really start to click it into these next levels. I mean, man, I am so excited for 2026. And like I said, waves are still coming 2025. There's some shifts and changes. I have a very good feeling a huge announcement's going to be made in the United States tomorrow, announcing some massive shifts and changes in the presidency and shifts and changes in the structures. Please, I'm asking you all to be very, very mindful. Watch the energies behind. We are still watching the fallen angelics do everything possible to get the demonics into a place of position in order to drag this country down. So we are watching this happen in all the countries. They did it with Australia, Canada, England. I mean, it's like I could probably list every single country in the whole entire world. Let's just say they have been literally trying to fully and completely assimilate the angelic human races of Earth. And they don't care, the borders are all made up, countries are all made up. Earth says that's all bullshit. I wasn't born with borders. We are angelic human beings that were seated upon the earth to be guardians of this body. And it would be like cutting up your body and saying your body, oh no, I'm sorry, I can't touch my hand over to my shoulder because I don't have a passport to get there. It's just this silly, silly, silly stuff when we think about it. And when we recognize this, we start to go like, oh, that's what anti-Christic is. That's where the levels of separation are created. Oh, that's how they get us to kill each other without thinking twice because we think we're doing something good. No, we want to remember what is in our core of our heart, right? And as we get to remember this, we want to still just kind of watch what is going on, be the mindful observer, and then at the same time, where are we all? We talked about it at the very beginning, so it's okay if you don't remember. We are in our spaceship. Right? We're in our spaceship. We are holding and anchoring the Aqualine suns. We are the ones that are holding that vibration, that dream, that intention. And we are the ones manifesting all the potential future timelines. So I need you guys. We need each other. We're the ones dreaming this dream. So that's what's really amazing about this. But just recognizing, one of the things to recognize is that 2025, 24, 25, we are still going to see a lot. And I think as we get into 26, especially 27, we're going to start to go like, oh my gosh, do you remember when we were all like thinking things were weird and crazy in 2020? This is so cool. Oh my gosh, I love this. um, will there still be shifts and changes? Of course, but remember, we're the ones bringing in the future timeline. So let's make that magic happen for sure. And this kind of ties in. I just want to do this one really quick. Asking about the expanded 12th dimensional shield to 24 to 48. Absolutely. I really encourage everyone to be amping up to 48 dimensional shield at bare minimum, and to really connect to that vibrational energy as like an emerald. And it's like an emerald fortified field within your shield. And so as you amplify up to the 48 dimensional field, um, maybe I can get one of you guys to do math for me really quick. So imagine we are in harmonic universe one, right? In dimensions one, two, and three. So harmonic universe two is going to be dimensions four, five, and six. So three is seven, eight, and nine, right? So take that all the way up. Somebody want to do, so just to know, fifth harmonic universe is dimension 13, 14, and 15. Sixth dimension is dimension 16, 17, and 18. Will somebody make it? Tell me what harmonic universe 48 is. I haven't done the math. I always double it up. I get up to 24 and then I double it. Um,
Oh,
so
44. Wait, what? Oh, never mind.
so let's go ahead and we're gonna move into a little bit other energy here. And so some of you guys have been really working with linking and connecting energy, especially those within the Telegram group and the Soul Circle. You guys have been really connecting consciousness, and so working together. I think this is really cool. Um, Let me go ahead, and there was an incident where one of the individuals went through something quite extreme. And basically, that extreme experience was having an act of violence show up in a very severe way within their reality. And within that, it's kind of the understanding of, oh my gosh, how do I deal with this? What is this a representation of? When we start to especially get into our awakening process, when let me see how I can put it this way. So those of us that really kind of get attracted to the soul circle are holding the Christ code, are here as part of the fem family. When I say fem, this is part of, say, the different angelic race lines. So we're part of, say, the aura fem or the fem families, the Reha fems. And as we are part of the Fem family, we can understand that we have been some of the most highly targeted individuals through many, many incarnations. And in many of those incarnations, a lot of us have been tagged with stuff. A lot of us have been captured, maybe hybridized, maybe easy to track in different ways. And most times we are incarnated into lifetimes that keep us pretty either asleep or distracted. But when we do start to finally break free from that and say no, and we start to kick out of all of those webs of programming, in the very beginning, there can many times be an acceleration of what seems like attack energy. Like as if the dark is trying to get me, as though even attempts on the life or these kinds of things. And this is something that I feel that many, many, many of us have gone through. That in the very beginning, as we really start to first untangle from the web of a lot of this energy, that it can seem almost kind of like, well, my life feels more chaotic now that I know a little bit more than it did when I didn't know anything. Like, why would I want to do this? And I will say it is temporary. It is temporary and until we get our shields generally up into a particular level, until there is just enough of an unplugging of that energy and a shutting down of their access points. But we can also utilize this spaceship technology that they're giving us with the aqualine suns. Again, being mindful that when we step out, that our signature is completely different. And when we start to unplug a lot of the implants and unplug a lot of the things that have kept us bound to the program or the system, we start to stick out like a sore thumb. We start to stick out. And this is where the guardians say, you don't have to. We didn't come here to suffer. So we also don't need to suffer through this process. But a lot of us have had to take a lot of hard knocks to figure out how to work with this energy. And again, it is about recognizing pulling into that guardian field energy. As we pull into that guardian field energy, we now start to be encased in it as if we now exist in a completely other time and space. If we have children, if we have pets, if we have any other beings that we are protecting at this time and guardianship of, pull them in as well. We want to pull in all beings. We have to realize these antichristic beings, they don't play fair and they've never been nice. They take pleasure in the things that literally we couldn't even bring our imagination to come to because they have such darkness within them. And they actually take pleasure in the pain and suffering of humanity. So when we recognize this, we start to realize that we don't want to wander about. This is let's think about it this way. It would be as though you were traveling to another country. And as you travel into another country, you want to be aware, you want to be mindful, you want to pay attention because my God, you stand out like a sore thumb. You stick out. You are the tourist. You are the one that is literally looking, acting, speaking, and being different than everyone else. So, guess what? You now become the target of the pickpockets and the ones that are maybe in that lower vibration who are looking to take on an unsuspecting person that isn't aware of a particular energy. And so then it's easy to see how a tourist can get taken advantage of because they're eventually not going to be there. They don't know, right? They don't know what street they're on, they don't know where they are. And so we want to kind of recognize in a lot of ways we are tourists in this first harmonic universe. We don't get it. We don't know it, but we're all walking around like these like naive, innocent little love monkeys that just want to be like, why isn't everybody else being so nice? Why doesn't everybody else love? And then we get like the locals that definitely have a tendency sometimes, it is what it is. I mean, it's like we just want to be mindful and aware, and it is challenging because we want to be like, well, if I am getting into these higher levels of awareness, shouldn't we be able to be in this new vibration, and shouldn't things just be beautiful? And that sounds great, but that's just not how it currently is here. The more aware you become, the more aware you need to be. Because the more activated you become, the more light you are. And the more that they are going to want to basically dim that light down. And so, as we recognize this is where we get to not only support each other, but we also get to recognize when these things are in the field. We also want to be really mindful of how are they showing up where we maybe missed a signal. And I'm not saying that this is the case in any way. I don't know all the story around, but I'm bringing this as a awareness. If you've just heard somebody talk about something that happened to them, if somebody just at work comes to you and starts telling you, "Oh my gosh, I had the worst day. This thing happened to my pet," and blah 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 blah, and you aren't being aware and canceling it as their reality and not yours, there is a high probability you are going to drag that into your reality. If you happen chance see an accident on the side of the road, or see an argument and people fighting on the side of the road, or see something in a movie or something, and are not consciously making the intention of what you are or are not recognizing as part of your potential future timelines, then there is a high probability that sometimes those things get pulled into our experience. Okay. I love to play with this as a game though. You guys got to have fun with this stuff, right? It's like I know we I know we talk about some heavy stuff, but there's all kinds of fun ways to play with this too. So Joseph and I we went out for the 4th of July, and I was all like, I want to people watch. I want to go out in my spaceship and like observe. And so we went out to a really quite heavily populated area and just merged in and out from different times to see things, and got to play with such a massive collective field that the minute we said something, or the minute that I thought something, or we exchanged something, it took less than 30 seconds for it to show up in the reality out in front of us. It was so cool. So if I was like, oh man, it'd be really interesting to hear country music. I'm just giving an example. Or well, another one was just an interesting thing. All of a sudden I was like, oh, and I started talking about another language from another country, and literally in the middle of Idaho, because we actually went to Coeur d'Alene in Idaho. It was really fun. um all of a sudden, within probably less than 30 seconds, a whole group of people talking in French. And these are really little examples. I mean, I got to where I couldn't count them anymore because we just started playing with it. Anything and everything you could think of, can you pull it into your reality? Is it going to show up in front of you? Where is it going to be? To which he's all like, $100 million, $100 million. Ah, yeah. So within that, as you get to recognize this, that it can work one way, it can also work the other way, right? So we want to be mindful of that, because I have also watched that before, watching stuff that's happening in the planet, where going like, oh look, this is how people are acting. Well, guess what happened in the parking lot right after that? Literally seeing an entire scuffle and someone being aggressive within the parking lot field. So, just as much as we can see within the reality something that we don't want, we also want to be mindful of it, and also being mindful, is there any residual energy that has um any limiting fears or beliefs around something that would also attract. And that would be something to the effect of, um, oh, well, I don't ever want to go to that place because I'm afraid I'll run into bad people. right? If we have kind of a belief of going like, oh, well, that street's really bad, there's only bad people that hang out there. Well, the likelihood of going there and finding a lot of wonderful people is probably going to be pretty slim. You're probably going to manifest in that reality the potential of maybe something like that. And again, I'm not tying this in to what the conversation was on the Telegram. I'm just going lateral into other experiences so that we can learn to kind of work with these vibrations and energies, um, as we get to recognize we are reverberating these things. Now, one other thing, also recognizing, a few of you were talking about connecting in the dream time and in the dreamscape. I will say that when you really start having conscious conversations with souls that are on the same frequency or wavelength of you, it doesn't matter where you are on the planet, you're going to start sharing thought waves, dreams, and experiences. So the more that you can be mindful of that, this is why, it's really neat. You can start to bring that into the awareness and recognize these things. And that's why a lot of times, sometimes things happen in say the soul circle or with an individual, and I'll feel it, I'll know it. And sometimes I can't exactly pinpoint who it's coming from, but for the most part, being able to recognize that there is something going on. So just know that is really important. The more you interlink in higher consciousness conversations with individuals, start to really be mindful of the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that you have, to really start to recognize that a lot of them are going to be telepathic kind of transmissions that are coming through that aren't even yours in the first place. And so you can play with those. Um, and kind of moving through. So now I want to tap into dreams and just kind of see. And this will kind of be the last one. I know we're getting pretty late on this. There was one comment or question that came through about dreams, and in the dream there was, okay, so this is piggybacking off of some of you are kind of connecting with each other and having kind of synced or similar dreams. So that there's that. Now, the secondary thing was a question about in the dream, there was pretty visceral and real interactions, as if feeling that they were in a parallel reality or something that felt really real, but not this earth plane, where there were really quite disturbing characters or individuals that were doing a lot of dark things there and also doing dark things to the children. And within this, that stuff is real, 100% real. When you are in the dream realms, you are traveling to real other places. And as you travel into those places, there are going to be a lot of places that will sometimes try to manipulate the dreamscape based on our subconscious. So some of it will be processing things maybe that we experienced earlier that day, something that was really shocking to our nervous system, so that we're processing it out. But when we have the experience of these realities that feel so real and these beings in there, these are real. And what happens is a lot of the Phantom Matrix beings have the technologies and the abilities. They can actually interact with us in the dream realms easier than in our physical realities. And this is why it's usually in the dream state. And just amp your shields up, because I want to give you guys this information. In the dream state, most of the hybrid forced acts of sexual uh, conduct happens. So in the dream state, people will have a dream they'll be like, "Oh, it was just so weird. It was such a weird sexual dream," or "I felt like this being was having sex with me," or "I just felt like this energy was trying to get me to do things." That is real. And I've said this with a lot of you that I've gotten to do clearings with. If you're having these experiences in dreams, clear it right away. The minute that you wake up in the morning, you want to clear it, because these are going to be uh, ways in which astral tags are put in the body. And a lot of these are actually the hybrid the forced hybrid programs, the forced breeder hybrid programs that are having. So the phantom pregnancies and these kinds of things that a lot of, especially a lot of the females are going through. So when we are having dreams of these beings, it's okay if you have the dream and you're like, oh man, I wasn't able to do anything. I wasn't able to change it. I wasn't able to make any commands or tell them anything. It's okay. The minute you wake up, go through the sovereign process of clearing out, commanding, tagging into their energy. Remember, time and space doesn't matter when we're working with these sovereign energies. When we're working with the crystal river energies, you can immediately tap into whatever was in your dream, whatever invaded it into your dream, and then tag its point of origin, because its point of origin is not going to be Earth, or its point of origin is going to be another dimensional plane. So you're going to tag its point of origin, and then basically from there go through the clearing process and also enacting divine law through these Christic councils or the Trimatrix councils. And as you command the divine law within there, now you are highlighting where they are so that they are basically getting caught, if you will, for their acts that they are doing in the shadows. So when we deal with things in the dream time and we are starting to break free from the programs in our belief systems and in our energy fields, the implants and seals clearings too, we now start to get sometimes more heavily attacked by these entities and astral beings or phantom beings, because they put out an army that says that one's unplugging, get your butt in there and retag them again, get them back plugged into the system. So the way that they generally do it is they will try to come into the dream realm to try to hit us with a bunch of emotional dreams. Did you guys catch the emotional word? Remember, we're also dreaming this dream together, so we're in a dream. And emotions are the number one trickery for how they get into our system. So when we are the neutral, compassionate witness, we have the ability to really be able to fortify our shield. But when we get emotionally derailed, just like that, millisecond, tag us, just like that, they will get past our shield in a millisecond, because any places that our emotions literally floor us or we get in like opened up, because they open us up, then it's like it creates a doorway in our shield and they just enter right in. Now, again, I'm saying this so that we catch it really quick and then it's okay. It's okay, because guess what? We have the crystal rivers to bathe it all back out. We just we want to just get under that water fountain and just keep it flowing and moving, and realize, yeah, there are definitely going to be times that it's going to tag us and get us in the dreams. It's they're catching us when sometimes a lot more of our consciousness is not present. But this is where dream practices come in. We want to learn to get to be more lucid in our dreams, to learn to start to command things in our dreams the same way that we would in our waking reality. Because I will tell you, if you really want to be a true alchemist and do some magic on this planet, if you can start to really wake up in your dreams and be conscious in your dreams, everything you shift and change in your dream state has actually a much more powerful effect and influence through more spectrums than even that which we change through our conscious intention. Because even within our conscious intention, we're still battling our subconscious. Our subconscious and our conscious might not be in alignment, but when you are in a dream state, you are in the pure creation realms, and there is no conscious mind at that point to get in the way. And your subconscious is now full wide open in a spectrum to where you can create the magic that you are wanting to create in any reality. And I definitely would encourage you guys to play with that. So with that, you guys, I hope some of this has been super, super helpful. Um, and I'm gonna end with this one. This question I love. It was talking about using the breath and using that breath hold cycle to drop energy into the third eye. So if you do, say, the soul coaching course, or the legacy of the soul course, which is an entire course on how to prepare for that transition at the end of life, we just talk about it a lot, is the triple breath. And the triple breath is a And the triple breath is really a beautiful way to accelerate the energy, to move it up, to press it up into our pineal gland. And as we do, yes, you want to be sitting somewhere that is safe. So if you fall over, you're okay. What we are doing is we are accelerating the energy and the increase of not only the oxygen but also the DMT that flows through our body is many times popping open the gateways of our perception. And I've had many, many times through that breath work experience, when I do it, that I'll pop in to a parallel reality, another place. It's like there's a sense of many times the body feeling even dizzy, or as though you're about to pass out, or is about to lose consciousness. That's all part of really getting comfortable with what that feels like, so that we can start to get more and more comfortable with what is the transition of life, so that we don't get worried about any of those feelings, and then we know what it is, and we ride the waves, and we let the wave take us, and we don't fight to come back into our body. So absolutely. um I would One of the best parts about it, I would say, it's the experience of starting to really feel the other planes of existence. So within that, I just wanted to say so much love to all of you guys. I'm just kind of reading the last little thoughts here. So much love, you guys. Oh my gosh. I just, this means so much to me. So I just want to say I love you.